Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Uncanny Treks. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. We are here to debrief on the Supergirl movie from 2026, not the one from 1984, Matt, just to be clear, the one from 2026.
Not the one with Helen Slater.
Nope, the one with Millie Alcock, I think is how you say her name. And to be clear, Matt, just to get my opinion up front, far from the worst superhero movie I've ever seen. I've seen a lot worse, but really bad. And honestly, Millie Alcock is about the only thing to recommend this.
I was supposed to go see this film on the same day you were. We were supposed to go see it. Not with you because you live in Seattle and I live in Georgia. But I was supposed to take my cat to get neutered, and I took the cat to get neutered. And I was going to go watch this film. I go to the mall, and it's not going to start playing until noon because theaters apparently don't open earlier than that. Anyway, they called me about the cat. The cat was ready. So I went and I picked up the cat. And then I never got to watch the film, Bob. So that's my
And
story.
I
But
messaged you and I was like, I don't think you'll enjoy this movie, Matt. I don't think you should go watch it.
was that story I just told about my cat more interesting than Supergirl?
It's probably a better story. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Wow. So let me ask you this, Bob. We did cover Woman of Tomorrow.
We did.
Love that
The
comic.
comic that this is based on. Yeah.
In fact, that comic is really highly ranked on our list, right? It's way up
Yeah, I
there.
think it's number two, right?
It's number two, Bob. I thought it'd be really hard to mess this up.
Oh, I didn't. I thought the things that were good about it were pretty specific to it being a comic and that they would be hard to replicate in a modern superhero film. And I was right about that.
I still have faith that someone can do it. I thought James Gunn might be that person, but no, I guess not. So tell me, Bob, is it a Western?
There's enough traces. The comic is basically just a Supergirl version of a John Wayne Western or a novel that a John Wayne Western is based on. The novel's called True Grit, and there was a John Wayne version of it, a Jeff Bridges version of it. It's a great novel, and the comic is still very good. So the basic framework is still there from True Grit. So it's still a Western in that sense, but I think because of contemporary sensibilities, they lean more towards fantasy than the Western, if that makes sense. The sword is a big issue in the comic, but they make the sword a much bigger issue in the movie.
Okay.
And the actress they get to play Ruthie, I think she's terrible. Now, I don't know if she's a bad actress. I've never seen Eve Ridley in anything else. And I'm not blaming her for this. I don't think it's her fault. It's just really bad writing on this movie. So I don't think there was anything she could have done. But Eve Ridley, the actress who's playing Ruthie, the young girl who Supergirl has as a sidekick in the comic and in the movie, they want to give you strong Game of Thrones vibes with her. They're trying to make her an Arya Stark, or I think that other young Northern girl, I had to look it up, but I think her name is Lyanna Mormont. They're basically trying to make Eve Ridley into Arya Stark or Lyanna Mormont from Game of Thrones. And it was to the point where I thought maybe it was the same actress that played Lyanna Mormont from Game of Thrones, but I do not believe that is the case. I think Eve Ridley is a different English actress. But yeah, she's terrible. Also, Matt, as a Southerner, so the novel True Grit, it's set in Arkansas. So it's a Western, but it's also got strong Southern dialect to it. I felt as a Southerner that it was a little bit of cultural erasure and cultural violence that they made Ruthie English instead of Southern.
Okay. Yeah. The whole idea, does it still go into the whole origin that she was a dirt farmer and her whole life was just very simple? Didn't know how to
It's
bathe, didn't wash her hands.
the movie spends maybe about 45 minutes doing the first two issues of this whole series. And then it spends maybe about an hour 15 doing a combination of issue 3, issue 5, and the last issue, if that makes sense.
Does it go and cover the story with the two different races and one of them has been completely a
Sort of. This family do live on a farm out in a country on this nowhere planet where Supergirl comes to drink. But they make a bigger deal of Ruthie's dad being a sword designer. And so Krim and the Brigands come because they specifically want the dad's sword. Granted, it's still a farm and they're still country, but they're making it a little bit more fantasy and a little bit more plotted than it.
See, and that's not what it's supposed to. Yeah.
They do the first issue and they do the second issue. And the second issue, if you recall, is where Ruthie lives on a red sun world. So Supergirl doesn't have her powers. So Krim and the Brigands are able to get the better of them, poison Crypto, make off with Supergirl's ship. And so Issue 2 in the original series is that Supergirl and Ruthie take a space bus to get to a Yellow Sun world, right?
Correct.
And if you remember, that's one of the best issues of the series because the space bus gets attacked by a dragon. So Supergirl has to take red kryptonite, which in the Supergirl comic series is a drug. And it basically turns her into a Supergirl Phoenix and she goes and fights the dragon, right?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, no, they don't do that. Instead, space pirates jack the space bus.
Oh,
I actually have to give the movie a little bit of backhanded credit for this. They're apparently obscure space pirates who appeared in 3 issues of the Legion of Superheroes. I did not remember these space pirates at all. So they pulled a Legion of Superheroes reference that was so deep, I didn't get it.
that's incredible. Wow.
It is incredible. But the thing that disappointed me, though, was that instead of Supergirl having to do a drug, they're close to a yellow sun, and so she just has to go out in a spacesuit and get the yellow sun.
Lame. See, the whole idea is that she snorted red kryptonite. That was what was cool about it.
You can see how in a PG-13 movie, they're cowards.
They're complete cowards. Jeez, it made it cool.
Weird. The movie really does emphasize Supergirl's drinking, and Supergirl's also being visibly sick or in the bathroom in a lot of the movie, either because she's drinking or because she's been poisoned, which also there's a lot of fight scenes where Supergirl's not at full energy because she's been poisoned. It's interesting that on the one hand, this blockbuster movie doesn't want to show her doing a drug, but they're so comfortable showing her drunk or hungover. It's an interesting tension.
Yeah, they want to show the children the repercussions of drinking, Bob.
I know that you love the hand washing scenes from the comic, right? Of Supergirl teaching Ruthie.
Yeah, that's
they totally don't.
See, so they skip over the whole idea. The idea is that Supergirl cares this much about some child who is not really that important in the grand scheme of things. That's the idea. She does it for this child. I'm glad I didn't see this.
The movie's structured around 3 planets. There's the planet that Ruthie's from, that's a red star. Then there's the planet where they go to try and hunt down the brigands, and they call this planet Bilquis and that's after the artist of the Supergirl series, Bilquis Evely. But it's a weird tribute because Bilquis is shown to be a total dunghole, right? It's done in the way they do Tatooine and Star Wars, right? Of this crappy thing. Another one of the great issues of the Supergirl comic was issue number 3, where it's the planet that seems super pleasant and nice. Then Supergirl and Ruthie slowly realize that, oh, there's been an awful genocide on this planet, right? They don't fully do that, but they do something similar where instead of it having been a genocide, it's just that the inhabitants of the planet Bilquis have been selling their daughters into slavery with the brigands.
Oh.
It's like issue number 3, but it's pretty loose and it's not nearly as effective.
It sounds like they try to tie everything together, which is just not necessary. But I guess with the plot structure here, of a 2-hour movie, you have to make it all tied some way.
We said this in our episode, right? That you couldn't just literally adapt the comic. That wouldn't work. But a lot of the things they changed it to such a degree that it has no more effect. At a certain point, it's if you're going to alter it so much, then why do it? Right?
Yeah, do your own story. Do something different that's not trying to be this, but watered down or made less effective because it's diluted with what you believe the audience will respond better to.
A couple other things from the comic. You know how in the comic they have Supergirl hovering a couple times and it's a pretty powerful shot. One time it's when Supergirl and Ruthie get to a Yellow Sun world and Supergirl gets her powers back, and so she just immediately starts to hover.
It reminds you that, oh yeah, she says she has power. It reminds the reader she has the powers back. It's a good thing. It's what you would do too if you got your powers back. That'd be the first thing I do is start flying.
That's the climax of issue number 2. Then in issue number 3, which we were already talking about, which is the genocide issue, there's the haunting image, as I recall, of Supergirl hovering and using her X-ray vision, looking around, finding any trace of the people, right? Both of those are beautiful and evocative and haunting scenes in the comic. And they do have Supergirl hover a couple times in the film, but they don't do it to anywhere near as good of an effect. She's usually not using her X-ray vision when she does it, or she's not getting her powers back. There's no thematic weight to it. So they'll take that pose of Supergirl hovering, but they don't actually make use of it, if that makes sense.
It's not used for an emotional intensity.
My joke to you is that with the invasion of Iraq, people didn't follow Tom King's plan and it went bad. I don't think there was a way the invasion of Iraq was going to go well. So yeah, I don't care if the CIA and the U.S. government followed Tom King's plan to invade Iraq or not. But I don't know why they didn't just get Tom King to write this movie. Right, because like they had him write the New Gods movie that got canceled. So
Yeah.
why not have him write this one? I don't know. But even more than messing up what Tom King did, this movie messes up what Bill Casevely, the artist, and Mateus Lopez, the colorist, did on the comic. Because if you remember that comic, the comic's colors are beautiful.
Oh, it
And
is. Yes.
yeah, there's no color in this, Matt. It's so desaturated. It's so bland. I went back and I listened to our Superman episode last year about the Superman movie, and that was something you praised about that movie was compared to your average bland MCU movie. The Superman movie had a good color palette, and they just forgot whatever lessons they learned from Superman 2025.
This is the opportunity to make something colorful because she's going to so many different worlds. It's a given. Only 3 worlds in this one. I mean, come on, there's so many different things you could do with it. Bob, one of the big deals leading into this film was that Jason Momoa was going to take on a new character. He was
Yeah, he's
Aquaman in the Snyderverse. Here he's Lobo.
Yeah.
How'd he do as Lobo?
If you like Lobo, you will probably like Jason Momoa's performance as Lobo. As someone who does not like Lobo, I do not. But I think even if you like Lobo and are happy to see Jason Momoa as Lobo, the thing you're going to run into with this movie is he has no reason to be in this movie. It's utterly pointless.
He's not in the original comic.
To me, the genius of the comic is that Supergirl is John Wayne. But if you introduce a character who's more John Wayne than Supergirl in her own movie, that negates what's cool about the comic, which is what they did here, right? They even do the intro where the fight's happening in the bar and Supergirl's got her head down and nobody knows it's her. That starts off early in issue 1 in the series.
Yes, Bob.
They do that with Lobo in the middle of the movie instead of with Supergirl.
Oh, so Bob, go back to our episode. That was my prediction. That's where they were going to put Lobo, but it wasn't at the beginning of the film. It was apparently in the middle. So Lobo doesn't show up till mid-film. All right.
He shows up in mid-film, he vanishes for a while, then he comes back for the finale.
I knew he was going to be a dude in the bar. We'll go back to Lobo real quick. Does he run through all his usual lines? Did he leave anything out that you were, oh, they forgot to do this with Lobo?
The only Lobo lines I know, I think, maybe you're going to say one in a minute that I'm going to be, oh yeah, duh, how could I forget that? But I know he says Bassett.
Okay.
They do that in the movie. It's awful, but they do that. Then he calls himself the main man in third person all the time, but I don't think he does that in the movie at all.
They should have been doing that. Okay. He had the
Is there
cigar.
any
He had the chains, everything.
He had the cigar, the chain, the flying.
Were his eyes red?
Yep. I think so. I wasn't paying that
Okay.
much attention. but I
Dang,
think
Bob.
so.
Okay. I guess they got him down. There's not much more to him.
Another thing, so do you remember in issue 6 in the series, they do extensive flashbacks about the destruction of kryptonite?
Yeah.
So they do that in the movie, but it's much less well done. In issue 6 of the comic, it's, as if I'm recalling correctly, it's a girl riding Comet, the Superhorse, and she's trying to outrun one of Mordu's globes. And the flashback intercuts with her and the Superhorse racing the Mordu globe, right? And so it gives you some stakes to the flashbacks. They just, on 2 or 3 different occasions during the movie, they just totally pause the action. And then they do extensive flashbacks of this is how Krypton got destroyed. This is Supergirl's life in Argo City. And then this is Supergirl and Krypto arriving on Earth and meeting Superman. And it's lame. It's pointless. Another thing you and I specifically praised about Superman 2025, the movie, is it was a movie that was finally, oh yeah, you don't need to dwell on the origin. No one cares. Obviously, they didn't learn the lesson of coloring from the Superman 2025. They didn't learn the lesson of don't waste 30 minutes of your movie on boring flashbacks that are obvious.
I slight disagree with Supergirl though, because her origin can be confusing at times because that character has had so many iterations.
But
So
to me, that's all the more reason not to do it.
this is interesting because in our coverage of X-Men 97, we said the same thing. I said the same thing about Psylocke. So that fits here too. Wow. All right. I do remember them doing the flashback scenes in the comics, and they were effective. But then again, it was structured as a comic,
They were effectively interspersed in the action of a comic book.
whereas
way-
here they just slow the film down. And like you said, we can get the idea of who Supergirl is pretty quickly.
They spend so much time on both of Supergirl's parents that it
Mm.
almost makes you think that if they were to do a sequel to this, which I'm sure they won't, but if they were, you almost think they might have her father come back as Cyborg Superman, like a Lando run, or her mother come back as a villain like happened in New Krypton right before the New 50. It's confusing. They highlight the parents way more in the movie than they do in the comic, but they highlight the trauma of Argo City dying a lot more in the comic than they do in the movie. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes. That
And
does
then
make
the other weird thing is that they spend so much time on Supergirl's parents that it would make sense for them to come back in a sequel if a sequel to this were to ever happen, and clearly it won't. But on the flip side, whereas in Superman, they make a big deal out of like Superman's parents being slightly sinister, right? And sending Superman to Earth to colonize. There's some gestures to that in the flashbacks of this movie. But at the same time, the Supergirl's parents are both shown as completely unproblematically and totally good. And they give her a strong moral code, and they talk to her all the time about being good and being kind in very weird and stupid thematic dialogue. It's weird because they're spending so much time on them. You're okay, I guess maybe they're going to bring them back as villains, but they're treating them as such generic positive influences. It doesn't seem like they would bring them back as villains.
Yeah, I don't know.
To echo what I said at the start, every performance in this, except for Millie Alcock, is awful. It's
Okay.
terrible. I don't think it's because the actors are bad.
It's the
Like
writing.
the guy who plays Krem is a Belgian actor named, I think, Matthias Schoenaerts is how you say his name. And he was really good in a crime film from Belgium about 15 years ago I saw called Bullhead. He's been in some other stuff. He can give good performances in other contexts, right? But there's just nothing to Krem in this movie, and there's nothing to Supergirl's parents, and there's nothing to Ruthie, right? Everybody who's not Millie Alcock in this movie sucks, but it's not their fault. It's just the writing.
Okay.
That is a good transition point. So Superman is in this movie more than you would think, but it doesn't work, man. You know how they portray him as a little bit of a goody two-shoe and a little bit of a nerd in Superman 2025?
Yeah.
They go way overboard with it here. He's totally feckless, totally ineffectual. And I get how they're trying to represent Superman and how they're trying to make a contrast with Supergirl, but I don't think it works at all.
That's what I was going to ask, is the idea is that they basically told David Cornsett or whatever, hey, when Supergirl's in the scene with you, Clark's trying to act a certain way around her. That's what you're supposed to get, maybe, or is it his act? It's just not written well.
Yeah, it's just not written well. It's just like he's totally feckless. She shows up, the pod crash lands in Antarctica, and it's her and it's Crypto, and she comes out and she just speaks Kryptonian, and Superman doesn't speak Kryptonian, and he's just saying things to her in English that she doesn't understand, and then they just kind of fly together towards the Fortress of Solitude.
Okay.
And
Wow.
they're trying to play it as charming. He's, oh, yeah, I didn't even think to learn Kryptonian. But it's so self-deprecating that it defeats the whole purpose of even having the scene.
Because
It's not,
she could figure out just as much on her own.
yeah. So it makes him look pointless, and it also makes her look pointless, too. I don't know. It's just neither of them come across well from the interactions. To briefly explain the climax, Matt, you remember the monster planet from issue number 5? I believe they call it Barrington in the comic.
Yeah, it was really cool.
It's got
Green
it's
Sun,
got
yeah.
monsters, and it's originally from a Silver Age comic where Superman is trapped on the planet, and that's referenced in the comic, but I think the name was given in the Supergirl comic. They use Barrington as the headquarters of the Brigand and the climax location, so they a bit combine the events of the last issue and the events of issue 5. But they don't get anything that's interesting or charming about Barrington from the comic. There are no monsters on the planet. And it does have a green sun, but they don't use the green sun that well. And there's no cool time frame of, okay, I think they express it in the comic as Kal-El did it for 20 minutes. I have to do it for 10 hours, something like that. There's nothing like that. It's just Supergirl shows up. She's in the green sun. She's immediately disabled. They treat it as a binary star system, which I think is how they do it in the comic too. Eventually the green sun vanishes and Supergirl gets her powers back, goes and beats up all the brigands. And that's it. There's no thing of Ruthie having to protect her, or there's no sense of can she survive. She's basically dead until
So what was Ruthie do?
prison.
Oh, so she's not even there. Oh,
while
wow.
Supergirl is dying on the planet.
That's a lame scene.
It is.
Way to ruin that one.
The whole end of the comic is admittedly a little confusing, right? There's layers to it. Let me make sure I get this right. So in the comic, Supergirl reveals at the end that she didn't need to save Krypto, that Krypto is going to be fine, and she just wanted Ruthie to come with her because she wanted to try and convince Ruthie through example to not kill Krim. Am I remembering that right?
That is correct, Bob.
You have where Ruthie has the opportunity to kill Krim. They have a duel. Ruthie sticks the sword in the middle of the beach and they both run for it. Krim gets it, but Ruthie kicks him in the face enough that he drops the sword. And Ruthie could kill him with the sword. She cuts off his fingers when he grabs for the sword, but she can't bring herself to kill Krim. Then Supergirl shows up and Supergirl takes the sword, and in front of Ruthie, she's going to kill Krim. But Ruthie tells her basically, it's all right, you don't have to. Am I remembering that right?
That is correct.
Then in the comic, they put Krim in the Phantom Zone. Then decades later, when Ruthie's an old woman and Supergirl's an adult because she ages slower, Kryptonian physiology, they get Krim out of the Phantom Zone. He's been a model prisoner. He begs for forgiveness. Ruthie refuses forgiveness and kicks him in the face, and Supergirl and Ruthie walk off. But in the narration from Ruthie, which you were supposed to understand is the book that Ruthie published about this, she claims that what happened back on the beach was she couldn't bring herself to kill Krim, but Supergirl did. And she published an account where Supergirl killed Krim while Krim was actually in the Phantom Zone in the real world. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So they don't do any of that in the movie.
No, okay. How does it end?
At least as I remember the comic, maybe you can correct me. In the comic, they're not debating killing Krim, right? That doesn't really come up in the comic because they're hunting him down, but it's not the whole time Ruthie's not, I'm going to kill him, and Supergirl's not, no, you're not going to kill him. They're both hunting Krim. But basically in the whole movie, it's Ruthie's, I'm going to kill Krim, and Supergirl's, no, you shouldn't do that. It won't fix anything. So you get to it, and Ruthie has the opportunity to kill Krim, although she does much less to earn it than Ruthie in the comics does. Then Supergirl stops her, sends her away, says, you shouldn't do this. Then as Ruthie is off in the distance, Supergirl then kills Krim with the sword.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Millie Alcock's Supergirl kills Krim with a sword.
Yeah, which, I mean, honestly, she probably kills several other of the brigands in the final fight scene. It's not super emphasized. And granted, this is a problem you often get in superhero movies.
Yeah, that's...
She does some moves where it's hard to understand how the result of that could be anything other than the guy dying.
She's beating up henchmen, and every superhero film's like that. You just assume they make it. But when you legit take a sword and kill somebody, why? What's the purpose?
I think the purpose is partially James Gunn and the screenwriter, I don't think, understood the comic. Then I think what the comic is doing doesn't work for a movie. So I think they were correct to feel they needed to do something else, but I think there's something else they'd work.
So, Bob, in 1 week, two of my greatest heroes, both Supergirl and the Archangel,
Have straight up murder people. Then the final scene is Supergirl goes back to Earth with Krypto, and she has another awkward conversation with Superman, right? Where her murdering the guy does not come up at all and is in no way referenced.
Dude, if you have super in front of your name, you don't kill. They did the same thing when Superman killed Zod back in the day on the Henry Cavill Superman stuff. Now Supergirl's murdering pirates. Why? We don't need it.
I've said this on different episodes. I'm indifferent to the question of whether superheroes should kill, but I strongly feel like you shouldn't write movies or you shouldn't write comics or you shouldn't do episodes of animated series that hinge over the question of whether or not superheroes will kill, because that's my position on it ultimately.
I just can't get over too, Bob. The whole charm of the story is that Supergirl didn't actually have to help at all because she'd already healed Krypto. She was doing it because she had the heart and wanted to help.
And it's a little bit of a callback to the way that Superman stories in the 50s and the 60s always hinge on like Superman lying to so Supergirl lying to Superman, right?
Yes.
More wholesome and a more
exactly
and a less toxic.
And it's more like, wow, that person really is super because they totally did all that and did this and didn't have to. That's the point. That's the point of the being super. Why don't they get that? I thought they got that with Superman in the most recent one. Is it James Gunn?
This film is done in a very James Gunn style. Obviously, he's not credited as director or as screenwriter, but it's done in a very James Gunn style. And it seems to have taken the lessons of James Gunn about the way you present characters and the way you humanize characters and the way you soundtracks. All that seems to have very much imbibed from James Gunn, but it doesn't seem to have internalized any of the ways that the Superman movie, like the Fantastic Four movie last year, was a refreshing departure from the formulaic superhero stories. That's the thing that is mystifying, is that it can take the James Gunn cliches, but it doesn't understand why Superman or Fantastic Four from last summer was a nice departure from cliche, if that makes sense.
Wow. I just can't get over how they can make it that, how they can miss the point by so much. That's the
It's
whole
really,
essence. It blows my mind.
I like the Supergirl comic an awful lot. I think I like everything else about it more than the end. I think that end is weird and weak, but I think the comic is just so good that I don't care about the end. Whereas I see why they feel like they had to change it, but they should have changed it to something better. In the same way, they couldn't have done as many planets, because you probably cover what, about 9 or 10 different planets in the original.
Oh yeah, there's no way. And we even talked about how this could have been a mini series or something on HBO. This could have been done the same way as Peacemaker.
I feel like the right way to do it was still just animated film.
When they see how well the Nightfall film does, maybe they'll consider adapting more.
Did you watch the All-Star Superman animated movie adaptation from 10, 15 years ago?
Yes.
I was disappointed when watching that, because even though I knew in the same way All-Star Superman is a 12-issue series, you got to leave a lot out, right? I was still disappointed with what they left out and what was left over, so I didn't enjoy it that much. But I do have to say, in hindsight, I bring this up because All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely and Supergirl by Tom King and Bill Kazevely are comparable comics. All-Star Superman animated movie was a much better adaptation, if still flawed, than the Supergirl live action film was the Supergirl comic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember pretty much enjoying that All-Star Superman film. I think I even rewatched it when we tried to cover it one time.
We'll recover it one day.
One of our many lost episodes. But
The other comparison I was going to make, did you ever wind up seeing The Marvels?
yes, I did.
That's the one with Kamala Khan.
Right, yeah. Well, they keep switching between each other's powers.
The angry comics media seems to be comparing this movie to The Marvels a lot, because they're both female-led superheroes
Right.
that didn't do so hot. In that respect, they're similar, but that's unfair to The Marvels, which I enjoyed as a movie. And I also thought, even before Superman and Fantastic Four last year had figured out how to do lighthearted superhero movies with episodic plot, the Marvels did that a couple of years before and got no credit for it at all. It was like very charming. It was a bunch of different locales. It was fun. It felt like zany Silver Age storytelling. And so I want to really register my protest that I feel like the Marvels deserves much better than a comparison to this movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I watched the Marvels on Disney, but I think you watched it in theaters. I watched it on
I went to
Disney.
see it with my friend in theaters, yeah.
Yeah, I watched it on Disney Plus, and it was fine. It wasn't anything great. What this movie sounds to me, it sounds a lot like Wonder Woman 1984. Did you watch that?
I saw the first Wonder Woman, thought it was really bad, didn't see Wonder Woman 1984. I will say, as bad as this movie is, and it is bad, there's enough charming stuff from Millie Alcock's performance and left over from the comic that I enjoyed this more than the first Wonder Woman movie.
Okay, and I wondered that too. Like, how do you compare the two? Because this is DC's first female-centered movie since Wonder Woman, right?
Birds of Prey came out before Wonder Woman 1984, I think. Probably you wouldn't count the Joker 2, but at least Harley was prominent in the Joker 2.
I want to see Millie Alcock more as Supergirl. It sounds to me. I'll end up watching this when it hits Max or whatever, but
Yeah.
I want to see Millie Alcock as Supergirl. But I feel like it's going to ruin the entire Tom King story for me just because it messed it all up.
Yeah, that's something I was concerned about, because I really enjoy teaching that comic.
You don't want people to know, oh, that comic sucks. No, it's
Yeah.
not like the movie. No, it's not like the film. It's not. It's got a legit story. Nothing.
Although in some ways I think the difference is so vast, and I think so few people are going to see this movie, relatively speaking. In some ways, maybe I don't have to worry about that so much.
Because, like I said before, when we did the coverage of the comic, this is one that I would just give to people that don't even read
Oh,
comics because
yeah.
it's a great story. This is not a movie though you would take. Would you take someone to a superhero film? Would you take them to see this film if you wanted to see a superhero? This is not
Well,
your first choice?
I would never try to get somebody into watching superhero movies. I enjoy talking with you on the podcast about superhero movies, and I enjoy going with my friend, but I don't think they're good by and large. Even the Superman and Fantastic Four and the Marvels that I'm saying relatively praiseworthy things about, right? I think those are 3-star movies, 3.5-star movies at most.
With a very mediocre time.
If I was going to be an evangelist for something, it would be for the comics or it would be for other better films, right? That are not superhero films.
Okay, Bob, it sounds I don't need to see Supergirl till it hits Max. I guess I won't be going to the
Yeah,
theater.
I hate to join the online course of negativity, but
Okay.
be my take on it.
I wonder how this looks going into Spider-Man Brand New Day. Will be coming next month, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll go see that or not. I'm not sure if my movie friend, I'm not sure if she's into that or not.
I will probably go see that one. It looks entertaining, but I'm not gonna get my hopes up. It is the fourth film in the run.
I never saw 2 or 3 from that iteration, which I
Oh,
guess I would probably need to see 3 if I was going to go see
okay.
3.
Let's see, if you're numbering like Bob does, this is Spider-Man number 9, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. The last one I saw was 6. I didn't see 7, 8, or 9. 9's coming out. And my impression is I would need to go back and watch 8 before seeing 9. That's my impression from the trailer.
You definitely have to, for sure.
But would I need to go back and watch 7, do you think, or no?
No, just
That's
the
good.
last one. You don't want to see Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio?
I love Jake Gyllenhaal in real movies. I don't have a very compelling reason to watch him as Mysterio. No,
What was the name of this film? This is Woman of Tomorrow, right?
no,
Well, it didn't have a
comic is Woman of
subtitle?
Tomorrow.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better because that means people won't put them together. That's good. Was there any post-credit scene?
No, the last scene is that's awkward homecoming conversation between Supergirl and Superman takes place in Superman's apartment. I think I read online somewhere that was originally supposed to be a post credit and then they moved it.
Oh.
I think I already mentioned this. It sounds like they cut out 20 minutes of the movie, which on the one hand was probably a good call, but on the other hand, there's just not a lot to this movie. Maybe in the original version, they had foreshadowing about Brainiac, who is maybe going to be the villain for the second Superman movie, but I caught nothing about Brainiac at all in this movie. Maybe I missed something obvious, but despite what AI is trying to tell me on search results, I don't think there's any real Brainiac stuff in this. The closest you come is, you know how usually Supergirl's dad uses the force field to save Argo City, right? That sort of looks like the force field Brainiac would use to save Kandor from the destruction of Krypton. You know how one of the cool things in like the Steve Orlando Supergirl run and some other Supergirl runs is Supergirl actually remembers Kal-El as a baby. She babysat for him.
Oh,
yeah, that's not in this version.
That's such. Why did they take the good stuff out of the movie? You have to build these characters by doing little scenes like that. It's not that hard.
I'm remembering the flashback correctly, and I believe I am. Krypton is destroyed, and Kal-El is launched to Earth before Supergirl is born, and Supergirl is born in Argo City in space after Krypton is destroyed.
Oh,
so she's never met Jor-El or Laura or Kal-El.
Why, James Gunn? What is your vision? Yeah. What is your vision with this?
I get that they're trying to simplify it, and I also get that I think the original comic, the Tom King comic, doesn't emphasize that, even though the Steve Orlando run we read does and other runs do. But yeah, it's a real loss to the.
That's awful. Okay, before you go, Bob, one other quick question while it's on my mind. You actually watched the Supergirl CW show. How does this compare to that?
I watched a fair, yeah, I think I tapped out in like season 3.
How does it compare?
Yeah, pretty different. That Supergirl show was produced definitely before the Tom King comic, and I think before the Steve Orlando run too. So it had less positive Supergirl material to run off of. And the Supergirl, and I'm not saying this is a criticism of either the show or the movie necessarily, but just two very different versions of Supergirl. The Supergirl's very much a try-hard nerd in the show, whereas she's a cool party girl who's hiding deep trauma about Krypton in the movie. So they didn't feel similar.
We went into that in our other episodes where we talked about the Orlando run and how even the fourth volume of that run itself incorporated a lot of the New 52 stuff.
The Orlando run, I think, started while in maybe the first or second season of the show.
Okay, weird question. Could you see the Millie Alcock Supergirl, if they make a second film, which I doubt is going to happen, they're going to have to use some sort of source material. Could you see this one, see Millie Alcock in the role of the story for Steve Orlando Supergirl and doing a good job?
He could do a good job, I would hope they would get a different director and a different screenwriter.
That's for sure. I'm just stuck on the cyborg Superman thing and Zor-El. I think that could be so cool because we could finally see a cyborg Superman on screen.
I think that works on the page. To me, that's the kind of thing works on the page but won't work on screen.
Yeah.
But I also think I'm saying that because it feels much the type of thing a movie would do. I think that's also maybe why I don't like it. And don't
Yeah. I could see them adapting that Orlando story. When you said that earlier, it was running in the back of my mind. I could see them doing something fun with that if they wanted to. You don't have to call it. We see it as Cyborg Superman. They'll just call him Cyborg Zor-El or something.
Could be interesting if they emphasize the ambiguity if she's not sure if it's really her dad, because he's such a generically positive character in this movie. If they were going to do a sequel, which they're not going to do, and if it were going to be good, which it wouldn't be good even if they made it, but they could do something interesting with it. The mystery about, is it really her dad?
If that actor shows up as a cyborg, with the cyborg implant saying he survived something somehow, they can do what they want to with it. Man, it's not going to happen, though. You're so right. Supergirl's going to be a backup character from now on, sadly. I have this feeling we're going to see her in any crossover films. And Peacemaker, probably some Peacemaker season 5 or something.
Oh, yeah. They're going to reduce her, to being punchline.
But she'll show up because they can't get Superman or something like that.
That seems likely. I hope Millie Alcock gets other better roles and better things because she deserves it. But yeah, cheers to everybody else involved. This has been Uncanny Treks covering Supergirl. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.